I'm in northern Platte County, Nebraska, at a place where a Catholic church, school, and Franciscan monastery once were. St. Bernard is an unincorporated community in the St. Bernard Township of northern Platte County, Nebraska. About 1873, 1874, a few Catholics began to settle in this area. Toward the end of 1877, the Burlington and Missouri River Railroad Company reserved a large tract of land, about 30,000 acres, for Bernard Schroeder and Franciscan Father Ambrose Jansen, the first superior of St. Bonaventure's Monastery in Columbus, Nebraska. This land was given to the two men for the purpose of founding a Catholic German colony. The new colony was advertised widely, both in the United States and in the Old World. 160 acres were donated specifically for church purposes, upon which Father Ambrose planned to build a church, school, and monastery, as soon as a sufficient number of settlers came. The settlement was named St. Bernard, in honor of the patron saint of Bernard Schroeder. While colonists began to flock to the new settlement, their poverty remained great. The land was poor, farm equipment was scarce, and markets were some 30 miles away. In the winters of 1881 to 1882, there were 26 blizzards. Fuel for heating and cooking consisted of buffalo chips, slewgrass, and corn cobs. In the winter of 1893, a diphtheria epidemic took the life of a number of children. In the family of John F. Ratterath, all 6 children died within 2 weeks. Until the erection of a church at St. Bernard, the settlers had to attend divine services at some private home or at St. Mary of the Angels at Grand Prairie Township, which was built in 1875. Since roads were poor at best, often settlers had to go for weeks without the consolations of their religion. Finally, the community began bringing lumber from Columbus in 1878. A combination church, school, and sisters' residence was complete by November of that year. The church was in the upper level and the school and sisters' residence in the lower level. The church was also named St. Bernard. It was a day of great rejoicing, causing the faithful to forget for a time the trials they had endured. The growth of St. Bernard's was slow and difficult as there were no railroad facilities for the transportation of building materials and provisions, and the settlers had 35 miles to drive over country roads from St. Bernard to Columbus for the necessary supplies. Franciscan Father Cyprian Banshield was the first pastor. He began coming out here to St. Bernard from the monastery in Columbus, staying about 3 days at a time. Appeal was made to the Franciscan superior to establish a monastery here at St. Bernard. With permission, Father Cyprian built a small residence in the winter of 1879. He was joined by Brother Giles Steckling and Father Aloysius Heron, who was assigned care of St. Anthony's Church at Burroughs Township and St. Leonard's at Madison from here. The residence canonically became a monastery in 1880 with Father Cyprian as superior. Realizing the need for a larger church, funds were raised and St. Bernard's second church was built and dedicated June 29, 1884. The new structure was 45 by 102 feet with a 100-foot tall tower. Over time, the interior of St. Bernard's Church was decorated extensively, being extolled as the most beautiful church west of the Mississippi. 17 paintings decorated the ceiling and walls. Paintings of the sacrifice of Abraham and the sacrifice of Melchizedek adorn the sanctuary. 14 medallions of St. Cecilia, St. Paul, and the 12 apostles were in the ceiling in the middle of the nave. And all this was the work of 3 years, accomplished through the generosity of the parishioners. St. Bernard's Parish celebrated 25 years in 1903. In 1908, a new monastery was completed to accommodate more priests for the growing local parishes like Holy Family in Lindsay. A new school building was built and dedicated in 1923. 1928 marked 50 years for the parish. By that point, the parish had given the church 4 priests and 25 religious sisters. On January 1st, 1931, St. Bernard's numbered 112 families with 845 souls and 206 pupils in the school. The school had 8 grades taught by 5 sisters of St. Francis of Perpetual Adoration from Lafayette, Indiana. The monastery had 5 priests and 2 lay brothers, serving St. Bernard's, Sacred Heart at Cornley, St. Francis de Sales at Schoolcraft, and St. John de Pomacene in Joliet Township. Many more details of the priest and parish life here at St. Bernard's up to 1931 can be found in Father Hagedorn's work Franciscans in Nebraska. One night in May of 1960, 3 separate fires burst out at St. Bernard. One burning down a vacant home, another badly damaged a barn, and the third affected St. Bernard's Church itself. Flames were noticed at the side door of the church and extinguished quickly enough that only the door and part of the floor were damaged, though smoke caused a bit more damage. An article in the Humphrey Democrat newspaper reports that it was thought that the fires were set on purpose, and investigations were made into discovering the arsonist. St. Bernard's School closed in 1961 after the sisters who had been teaching here were assigned elsewhere due to a decline of their community. Most of the St. Bernard students went to Holy Family School in Lindsay. In 1971, due to the shortage of priests, the Franciscan Fathers turned the St. Bernard Church property over to the Archdiocese of Omaha. It was determined by the Archbishop that the church and monastery would be closed. On July 11, 1971, the last Mass was celebrated and the people departed with heavy hearts as the bells tolled for the last time. The assets of the parish were divided among the parishes at Lindsay, Humphrey, and Madison, depending upon the number of families that joined each. For a brief time in the 1970s, the monastery was used as a halfway house for people being treated with alcoholism, but soon it became unused. First the church, then the monastery, and finally the school building were each dismantled and removed by the 1980s. A portion of the brick wall built in 1914 on the south side of the convent garden still remains today, as does the outline of the ball field. The St. Bernard Cemetery is south of the church location at the end of a long driveway. Here on St. Bernard's Corner is now a marker which was dedicated on May 26, 1991. It briefly commemorates the church, school, and monastery that were once here, along with an image of the former complex. Cornerstones of the church from 1883, the monastery from 1908, and St. Bernard's School from 1922 were also saved and placed here as well. The 3 bells from the church are now part of the quincentenary bell tower at Pawnee Park in Columbus, Nebraska. The first and smallest bell dates back to the first church in 1878. The second bell dates to 1884 and the building of the second church. and the third and largest bell was donated in 1902. It has an inscription in Latin which reads, "In honor of St. Bernard, Jacob Widener has donated me. Pray for him and his family." Mass continues to be celebrated today 5 miles away at Holy Family in Lindsay and 9 miles away at St. Francis in Humphrey.